Alright guys, so here's what we're going to do. I have already done a video like this strictly for Facebook. I don't have that video on my phone anywhere. I have no way to save it or upload it to YouTube. So I figured I would do it all over again. I got this really nice piece of Redbud from my buddy Vincent Pettit. He's also on Instagram as VKP Wood and Metal. So definitely check him out. He's a cool guy. He's got some really cool stuff going on. He's really been branching out lately and trying some new stuff, such as masks for axes and other covers for tools. This is a custom one he made for my Paul Kraskowski 1-pound carving axe, and he did a really phenomenal job on it. He also just finished one up for my 1¼ pound Paul Kraskowski axe, and that should be delivered within the next couple days, so I'm really excited about that. I know he's willing to do these for commissions. If anybody's got an axe, you can just get a hold of him. You'll end up having to ship it to him probably. He'll get it finished up for you, ship it back. He does a great job, and he uses some really nice woods and some nice hardware as well. So give him a shout. Again, his name is Vincent Pettit, or VKP Wood and Metal on Instagram. So I just pulled this Redbud Blank out of the freezer. I'm not sure how well that'll pick up, but it's very, very frozen. So it might be a little rough going in the beginning here. I already had my spoon plotted on the front here. So first thing I'm going to do is make a cut right here about 2/3 back on the bowl and maybe about 1/3 into my blank. I don't know if you can make that out. So let me turn this real quick. And this doesn't have to be exact. It can be, forward a little bit or back a little bit or whatever. This is basically just a guideline. This is how you get the crank in your bowl. At least how I do it. You can do it without making a depth cut. You can do it with. I'm sure there's other ways to do it as well. Probably ways that I don't know about yet. I like to try to make sure it's same depth on both sides of the cut. This looks pretty good here. And so basically that's going to tell me where to stop the depth of my bowl. So I'll put that away for now. And the way I approach this might be kind of difficult to pick up on camera. I actually cut not quite into the end grain itself, but into this plane here and shear down to that line. So I'll be making a cut from up here and meeting that stop cut that I just did. And this isn't the easiest cut to make when the wood's frozen. But if this wood wasn't frozen, it would have been checked out by now full of cracks and wouldn't be usable anyway, so I can't complain. I just try to get that roughly flat across. You can see I'm almost there on this side, but not so much on that side. And you can come from this approach, although in my opinion this isn't quite as safe. It'd be fairly easy to accidentally come up too much and clip your finger. So I try to avoid that when I can. Now I've met that depth cut on both sides now. And I always do some light cleanup on it. And then I just choose a point somewhere on the handle where I want it to start bending towards the bowl. I really don't have a science for this, to be totally honest. I start maybe, I don't know, right below wherever the detail is in the handle. And I try not to wail on it too hard because I don't want to slip through this and cut into the tip of the bowl here. Let me turn the fan on real quick. It's pretty warm in my garage. Normally I'd be doing this outside, but it's quite windy today. And that leaves us with this kind of profile here. So basically what I got to do is take off this excess here. I need to decide how far up I want to carve here to create my handle, and I probably will take this down a bit more just to transition into the bowl a little bit better. This could be done with my knives too, but the whole idea is to do as much of the work with your axe as possible. It's easier on your tools that way, it's easier on your body that way. I apologize for these videos being in no discernible order. I just got home from work literally a few minutes ago, pulled all this stuff out and just decided I was going to kind of throw it on video and see how that went. So I think that's going to be about good. And at this point, I'll usually take my template and I will reapply that. So let me run and grab that real quick.
What's up, Sean Doggy?
Sorry about that. Alright, so here's my template. And Vincent, the guy I got this wood from and that made that axe mask, also gave me the idea to use like folder stock. Like, folder dividers materials to make this out of because it's much easier than paper. Lasts a lot longer. So I will just reline this up with the existing part of my template. And this does not transfer well onto frozen or wet wood, by the way. So you'll see me doing this a lot. And that's just trying to get the ink flowing back into the pen because the tip of the pen's wet. There's some really, really nice grain in this one too. I'm pretty excited about this. I've never carved Redbud before. It's one of the reasons that Vince sent this to me. He said, hey, what are you looking for? This is what I have. And I said, ooh, Redbud. So you're experiencing this for the first time with me. Don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know how it carves, if it's soft or hard, or we'll find out together. Alright, not perfect, but you get the gist. So, there it is, replatted out on there. And then I need to make stop cuts here and here. This isn't necessary, but it's something that a lot of beginners will do, and even some of the pros in carving I noticed do this as well. It just makes things easier. It makes so you don't accidentally hack into the back of the spoon bowl and get cracks in it. Okay. I try to get reasonably close to the back of the spoon bowl, but not so close that I either cut into the line or can't make design changes if I see that that's necessary. So that is going to be plenty good for me, and I'm going to continue that on the other side as well. You can do this a couple different ways. I mean, you can either start shaping the handle right off the bat or shape the back of the bowl. I find that shaping the handle is actually a little bit easier for me, so I'll start working on that. Making sure to keep my hands out of the way the whole time, because if you're going to get hurt, the axe is the easiest way to do it, and that's the last way you want to get hurt, trust me. I've seen some nasty wounds with axes. I haven't had any myself, and I don't want to have any. And as I'm following through on the cut, I'm kind of making a slicing action. This is for a couple reasons. It tends to cut better that way, in my opinion, and it allows to, if I put a little bit too much pressure, I'm pulling back at the same time. I'm going to get rid of a lot of this material anyway, so I would rather accidentally nick that than nick it way up here. And I don't need to get super close to that right now. I'm not worried about that. I did get a strike in the back here that I'm just going to take right off. That's called a drop cut, by the way. Now I'm not actually carving an entire spoon for this. I'm really just carving out a blank. I don't even know that I'll be finishing this today. This will probably go right back into the freezer, to be totally honest. Oops. And carving this side is a little bit harder because I'm looking at the back of this. I can't really see my template on the front here. So you'll find that, you might be doing a little bit, stopping and looking at it, doing a little bit more and stopping and looking at it, and that's totally fine. It's not necessary to rush through this, especially when you're trying to do so safely and get a good spoon out of it. My grandpa always told me measure twice, cut once. I'd rather eyeball this thing a million times and get a good spoon out of it than to make a bad strike and not even be able to salvage it. So again, I'm not trying to get this exact. I'm really just roughing this right now. I will fine tune this a little bit more on the handle in a couple minutes here. I've got some decisions to make at this point too, because I got some really nice color here and it's a little more pale up here. So if I wanted to take some material from the top of the handle so that I could get down towards that better color, that would be an option as well. A lot of times I'll just wing it, but if I see something super special, I will move my line down to the point to where I will be able to see that color more in the spoon when I'm done. And this is still pretty thick at this point. I'm maybe 5/8 of an inch thick here, and probably close to 3/4 right there, maybe a little bit more than that even. And I will come back to this and get it thinner, maybe a couple times while I'm roughing out a spoon. You'll see me stare at the end a lot. I want to make sure that it's not fatter here than it is here. So as I'm going, I try to even that up. And you'll see me doing this as well, trying to make sure that it's in line with the bowl, which as this dries, that may change. So you want to leave it thick enough to where you can carve a little material away on one side if it's starting to get a little wonky while it's drying. So I'm maybe at about 3/8 right now, which I'm happy with that for the moment. I will start working on the back of the bowl. At this point, I normally just try to carve the back relatively flat, and I'll add, I'll add some curvature to it later on. I might put a little bit in it right now, but I'm not going to spend a bunch of time trying to make it round on the bottom with my axe. So you can see how thick I've left it at the keel and how thick it is right here. I will blend that into the keel a little bit, which will take both of those down some. Keeping that thumb tuck, and you might even want to do some drop cuts right here just to get it started. And you can see this one's going to have a pretty decent profile to it, the way it's starting to look. Thin that handle up a little bit more. Keep in mind that my thumb is right here, and I'm not trying to take any power swings right now. If you feel like, wow, if I slip just a little bit, I'm going to cut myself, and it's time to move whatever you think might get cut. I have gotten some pretty nasty gashes with knives. Like I said, I've been lucky with axes so far, and I intend to keep it that way if I can. But we don't need any ER trips here. We don't need to be going to the hospital. It's a great hobby. It's really, really fun to do. It's fun to learn. But what is not fun is getting hurt for your hobby and deciding you never want to do it again because it hurt you that bad. It's like dating. Being married. Doing it wrong can spoil it for you. I'm going to eliminate pretty much all the yellow from the handle here for the most part. That way, once it shows up in the bowl, it's going to really, really pop. Hopefully it turns out that way. I mean, this is a little bit of a guessing game. Educated guess, obviously, but I will start coming around the bowl here and rounding that off. Keeping my axe chopping at pretty much the same angle the whole time and really turning the workpiece. That's, at least in my opinion, the way that you get the most well-placed strikes. I don't want to be coming from this direction and this direction. I want there to be a muscle memory to it, and to where my body just is kind of in tune with the axe and they both know where each other needs to be. And you don't have to get within a millimeter of your line at this point. I'm an eighth or under around this area, which is fine. And that little excess there, I will just take that off my knife later on. I'm not worried about trying to get that intricate with my axe. I've gotten a lot of questions about why do I have these notches here, and it's so that I'm able to lock my piece in place to make awkward cuts like this, to cut the shoulders on the back of the bowl. Now I still have some stop cuts here, and I will start coming along the inside of this. And because there's such an extreme curve right here, I'm not going to try to get this anywhere near perfect. Normally I'd get really close to that line. I'm not going to try to do that in this case. I'm just going to try to take away some mass and make it easier for when I start going to town with my knives. I noticed too that it's pretty common for me to, once I've taken away a lot of unnecessary material from the width of the handle, I'll again look at this and be like, well, you know, I can take that down even more with the axe, which is exactly, I'm sure, what I'll end up doing here. Not too much apparently, because it looks like I've done a pretty good job, but a little bit at least. And as you're approaching the bowl, you really want to let up on that pressure, because if you overstrike and go into the back of the bowl, you're going to end up with cracks right here on either side, and you definitely don't want that, because once that's started, it's just going to continue further on into the bowl, and you're going to end up with a spoon that is probably still usable. I don't know how long it'll last, but it'll still be usable, just not as aesthetically pleasing. Another reason it's a good idea to leave excess material on the tip of your bowl, and I don't know how well this will be shown here, but it's slightly mushroomed right now, and that's because as I'm bringing pressure down with my axe, all that pressure is going into the tip of the bowl. So if you have excess material there, it's going to mushroom out here where you're going to carve it away anyways, instead of the part of your spoon that you want to keep later on. Normally I actually leave a little bit more than that. I also lately have been leaving, see if we can get this pick up, extra material on top of my handle here. Sometimes I'll pre-draw the finials on, sometimes I'll just decide this is what I'm going to do, you know, last minute. And I always like to leave extra material there in case I want to get really artistic and do something, you know, totally crazy, or in case I, you know, mess something up, which happens more than I want to admit. So I'll take a little of that excess away right now. Just kind of carve a V in the end of the spoon. cutting end grain I'm sorry, is not real fun. You know, compared to cutting with the grain like this. So anything you can do with your axe here, do what you can, because it's a heck of a lot easier with your axe than it is with your knives. I may in the future do an axe sharpening video, and it may be sooner rather than later, because this one could actually use a little touch up. Maybe not a full-on sharpen, but I think a good strop session would probably do it some good and put it back to 100%. But I don't want to get crazy, you know, making 500 videos on how to strap different things. So if you guys think that that's necessary or something you want help with, drop me a message in the comments. I'd be happy to do it. I don't want to do it if nobody's really interested. So let's talk about crank, because adding crank to the spoon, which is the amount of angle you have right here in the bowl, seems to be a sore spot for a lot of people. People are having problems with it apparently, and I did too in the beginning, to be totally honest. This I wouldn't consider super cranky, but it's a pretty decent crank. And even at this point, even though I've done my stop cut and I've already cut that angle into the bowl, I can make this more or less cranky still at this point. I can carve the bowl a little deeper and bring this line down more with my knife, this line here, and the same here, which will give it more crank. Or I can leave this pretty much as is, leave this plain intact, just carve it, you know, bowl shaped, obviously, and take a lot of material off the back, which will flatten that crank out a little bit. So hopefully that makes some sense. There's a lot of different stages in carving a spoon to where you can affect the crank. Obviously, what you already saw me do with the depth cut here and cutting towards the end grain and from the handle, that's the majority of it. And you can do it a couple different ways, but that's the way that I choose to do it because it's the easiest for me. Thin this handle out just a little bit more and be pretty much done. That'll be a pretty good side profile, I think. So that's the side profile. And just to give you something flat to reference it against, that's a pretty decent crank. And that is pretty much all my axe work done. I could thin this out a little bit more. I haven't decided yet if I want to take a little bit of crank away. I think I might take a little away, just so this is a little more usable. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're half an hour into a video on you know, carving out a spoon blank that should have took 15 minutes like it did last time, but last time I didn't narrate it. I really just turn the camera on, try to pretend it wasn't there, and this time I did a little explaining. Hopefully it helps somebody out. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you guys got any more ideas on different videos you would like to see done, or if you got questions of your own about you know, problems you might be having in spoon carving or carving otherwise, or woods or whatever, feel free to drop me a comment, get a hold of me on Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, however you want to do it. My Instagram is SRHEARN0908. So hopefully I'll see you guys online, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.